I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for almost 8 years now. We met in college, got married young, and for a while I honestly thought we had a pretty solid thing going. She was always a little bitchy, but I figured that was just her personality. She's a fiery type, quick with her words, and pretty good at pretending she's always right. She's the kind of woman who can argue her way out of anything, and I guess I always just accepted that as part of who she is. The trouble started about a year ago, right after we bought our house and she got a new job at a marketing firm. She was acting different, less affectionate, more distant, and she started working late, which was unusual for her. I'd ask her about it and she'd brush me off, say she was busy with work or that she was just stressed. That's when I first started noticing little things. Her phone ringing in the middle of the night, her being secretive about her texts, and her disappearing for hours without explaining where she was going. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I tried to keep it cool, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Then came the company retreats. She'd always been a little resistant to those, said they were boring, mostly talks and team-building exercises. But last year she suddenly started insisting she needed to go. Said it was good for her career, and I trusted her. She promised she'd be careful, that she wouldn't do anything stupid. The first sign that something was really wrong came during one of those retreats. I happened to be checking our joint bank account, just routine, when I noticed a strange charge from a hotel downtown. I clicked on the receipt, and it was for a room booked under her name but with a different man's name as a guest. I thought maybe it was a friend, but the dates didn't line up with any work-related events. I kept digging and found more. Expense reports showing she shared hotel rooms with someone during these retreats, always with the same guy. A guy I didn't recognize. I was furious, confused, and hurt all at once. How could she do this? How could she cheat on me during something supposed to be just professional? I kept looking at the receipts, trying to connect the dots, and then I remembered something. One of her coworkers, a guy named Todd, had been acting weird around her. Flirty, I thought at the time, but I shrugged it off. Turns out he was more than just flirty. They had been sleeping together during these retreats. I found messages on her phone, flirty texts, blurry photos, and even some dirty talk. I couldn't believe it. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I wanted to yell, to scream, to break something. Instead, I shut down. I couldn't even look at her for days. The betrayal of trust was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I didn't see it coming. She always lied so easily, told me she was working late, going out with friends, or just tired after her meetings. But the truth was right there, staring me in the face. I had the proof, and I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. After I found out about the affair, everything else in my life felt like it was falling apart. I kept replaying those moments in my head, her sneaky texts, the hotel receipts, the way she lied so effortlessly. I was furious but also hurt in a way I'd never felt before. It wasn't just the betrayal. She lied to my face, acted like everything was normal when she was sleeping with some guy behind my back. I couldn't believe I was that blind, that naive. How long had this been going on? Had she been cheating on me for months? The thought made me sick. I tried to talk to her that night, but she was in full denial mode. I confronted her and she instantly turned into the master of lies. "You're crazy," she snapped. "You're paranoid. Todd is just a friend. You're just insecure." She spun this whole story about how I was overreacting, that I didn't understand her job, that she needed stress relief. And the way she said it, so bitchy, so dismissive, it made my blood boil. She acted like she was the victim, like I was just some insecure husband reading too much into things. I wanted to believe her at first because maybe I was overthinking it. But then I thought about the times I'd caught her lying about her whereabouts, the way she'd get defensive whenever I brought up her late nights, the way she'd brush it off with her bitchy attitude, accusing me of not trusting her. Honestly, it was like she was playing a part, acting innocent but deliberately pushing me further away. I felt like a fool for ignoring the signs for so long, for not trusting my gut. The next morning I started to plan. I couldn't just let this go. I needed to see what I was really dealing with. So I hired a private investigator. I know, sounds crazy, but I needed the truth. I didn't want to live in some weird limbo, questioning everything, not knowing if she was still sneaking off to see Todd or someone else. I told myself I'd find out once and for all. Sure enough, after a few days, the pie came back with photos, her and Todd together in a hotel room. Kissed, laughing, totally caught red-handed. That was a punch to the face. Seeing her with this guy, knowing she'd lied to my face all those times, it pushed me over the edge. I'd never felt so angry and betrayed in my life. I wanted to confront her again, but I knew I had to do it in a way that would hit her where it hurt. But also, I needed to prepare myself mentally. I couldn't just explode without a plan. I had to be smart about how I handled this, especially since I knew she'd turn on me with her bitchy attitude and lies. The hardest part was realizing that my entire image of our marriage was a lie. I always thought I was the loyal, hardworking guy who did everything right, who provided, protected, and loved her. And here she was, sleeping with my supposed friend during company retreats, while I was at home, trusting her. How do you come back from that? How do you rebuild any sense of trust when the person you loved and trusted most in the world humiliated you like that? And honestly, part of me just wanted revenge. I didn't know how yet, but I knew I would make her regret every single lie she told me. After I got the evidence, photos, messages, receipts, I knew I had to act, but I also needed to think carefully. I couldn't just blow up without a plan. I sat there for days, going back and forth between rage and sadness, feeling like I'd been punched again and again in the gut. The betrayal cut so deep, I started questioning everything: our marriage, her words, my own judgment. It was like I'd been living a lie all along, and now that I saw the truth, I didn't know how to deal with it. I decided I had to confront her again, but this time I was calm, cold, even. I didn't want her to see how much she'd hurt me, not yet. I knew she'd lie her way out of it, try to manipulate the situation, so I needed to be prepared. I told her I knew everything about Todd, the hotel, the shared rooms, everything. Her reaction was almost laughable. She rolled her eyes, called me a jealous, insecure idiot typical of her bitchy attitude, and tried to deny it all, even with the proof right in front of her. "Mike, you're overreacting," she spat, crossing her arms. "You're just paranoid. Todd is a friend and we're not doing anything wrong. You're just jealous because I'm more successful than you. Maybe if you were so insecure, you'd understand that I need some excitement in my life." Her words were like knives, each one more dismissive than the last. That's when I realized her lies were just her way of gaslighting me, trying to make me doubt what I saw and what I knew was true. I stayed silent through her bullshit, feeling a mixture of disgust and anger. I knew I couldn't stay silent forever. I needed to decide what to do next: stay and try to forgive, or walk away. But the thing is, I couldn't just forget that she cheated on me, especially with someone I used to trust. Todd wasn't just some coworker. He was supposed to be my friend, and she, my wife, slept with him during company retreats. That sort of betrayal doesn't just fade away. Over the next few days, I started gathering more evidence. I wanted to make sure I had everything right before I made any move. I set up hidden cameras, checked her phone logs, and even started talking to some of her coworkers who weren't as loyal to her as Todd. I wanted to be sure I had her cornered before I did anything drastic. Honestly, I didn't want to do something I'd regret, but at the same time I needed to make her understand how badly she'd screwed up. Meanwhile, she was still trying to manipulate me, calling me insecure, accusing me of spying, telling me I was ruining her career. She said she was just having fun, that Todd was just a distraction, and that I was overreacting. That bitchy attitude of hers, so dismissive, so full of self-righteousness, made me hate her even more. I saw her for what she truly was: a lying, manipulative woman who thought she could get away with anything just because she's pretty and bitchy enough to charm her way out of trouble. Honestly, I felt like I was losing my mind. How could the person I loved, the woman I'd trusted with everything, be capable of doing this? It made me question all my choices, all the little things I overlooked. But deep down, I knew one thing: I couldn't stay silent forever. I had to decide whether I was going to fight for this marriage or finally walk away from the woman who betrayed me so badly. The next step was clear but painful. I wasn't sure I was ready for it, but I knew I'd have to be strong, one way or another. The days that followed were some of the hardest I've ever gone through. I spent hours just staring at the evidence, trying to figure out what my next move was supposed to be. Part of me wanted to blow everything up right then and there, call her out in front of all her coworkers, confront her in the worst way possible. But another part knew I had to be smart. I had to get her alone, break her down, make her realize I knew everything. That's when I started planning my revenge, not just as an act of anger but as a way to make her regret every lie, every sneer, every manipulative word she'd thrown my way. I remember sitting in the dark one night, thinking about her bitchy attitude and how she always played the victim whenever she got caught. She's so good at lying, at twisting everything around to make herself look innocent, like I was the crazy one, the jealous husband who couldn't trust his wife. I was sick of it. I wanted her to feel how I felt, humiliated, betrayed, powerless. I didn't want just to walk away. I wanted her to suffer just a little for all the pain she caused. That's when I decided I'd get back at her, not by some reckless confrontation, but by turning her own game against her. I started by sending her some anonymous messages, stuff that would make her paranoid, make her think I was onto her, even though I wasn't ready to reveal everything yet. I made her believe I was watching her, that I knew about her secret meetings and her lies. I sent her a few fake texts from Todd, just enough to make her sweat. And the way she panicked, her bitchy attitude melting into nervousness, that was the best feeling in the world. I could see her insecurity creeping in, and I knew I was finally gaining the upper hand. Of course, she denied everything when I finally confronted her directly. She was furious, calling me crazy, jealous, deranged. She threw her accusations back at me, saying I was stalking her, that I was trying to destroy her career. Her voice was sharp, full of venom. I just stood there, cold and quiet, knowing I had the evidence to back up my claims. I didn't need her explanations, her lies, they didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that I had her cornered and she knew it. That night, I watched her get more and more frantic, trying to maintain her perfect bitchy facade. But I saw the cracks, her trembling hands, her nervous glances. She was finally on the back foot, and I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. Satisfaction because I finally had control, and sadness because I realized how deeply she'd betrayed me. This wasn't just a fling, it was a full-blown betrayal of everything we built together. I felt like a fool for trusting her, for thinking she was the woman I married, the woman I loved, but I also knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. The damage was done. I had all the proof I needed to end it, to finally face the truth and do what I should have done from the start, walk away. Or maybe, just maybe, give her a taste of her own medicine. I wasn't sure yet. All I knew was I wasn't going to be the one feeling humiliated anymore. She was, and I was determined to make sure. She remembered that. The decision finally clicked into place after that night. I looked at her, her bitchy, manipulative face, and realized I couldn't keep pretending to be fine. I couldn't keep dragging this out, pretending I was the problem when she was the one who'd shattered everything. I knew I had to end it, but I wanted to do it on my terms, make her feel just a fraction of what I'd gone through. Not just walk away, but make her understand that she'd pushed me to the edge, and I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. The next day, I started executing my plan. I knew her well enough to know she loved being in control, loved acting superior, so I decided to take a different approach. I wanted her to feel vulnerable, exposed, and humiliated just like I had felt. I took the evidence, the photos, the messages, the receipts, and I laid it all out for her in a very calculated way. I didn't yell or scream. Instead, I sat her down, looked her straight in the eye, and told her everything I knew. Every lie, every secret meeting, every sneaky hotel stay. Her face twisted into that familiar, bitchy sneer, but I could see the panic behind her eyes. She tried to deny it, of course, but I pulled out the receipts one by one. Her excuses were pathetic. It was just sex, she said, as if that made it okay. We're just having fun, she insisted. You don't understand how stressful my job is. But I had enough of her bullshit. I told her she didn't have to explain anymore because I knew the truth. I told her she was a liar, a cheat, and a manipulator. That I wasn't going to be her doormat anymore. Then I did something I knew would hit her hard. I started talking about divorce. Not just that I was thinking about it, but that I was done playing her game. She froze, trying to come up with some bullshit excuse, but I cut her off. I told her she had two choices. She could come clean and accept the consequences, or she could lose everything. I made it clear I was serious. The look in her eyes, part shock, part anger, told me I'd finally broken through her bitchy facade. She realized I wasn't messing around anymore. From that moment on, everything changed. She knew I was done with her lies, that I had all the power now. And weirdly enough, that felt better than any revenge I could have planned. It was more about gaining my dignity back, about ending the game she'd been playing with my life. I knew I'd have to decide whether to rebuild myself or walk away for good. But honestly, I wasn't even sure I could look at her the same way again. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by this manipulative, selfish bitch who thought she could get away with anything. The aftermath was just as brutal. She tried to spin everything to act like she was the victim, but nobody believed her anymore. I moved out of the house, took some time to think, and slowly started putting my life back together. The trust was broken beyond repair, and I knew there was no fixing this marriage. The pain was immense, but so was the sense of liberation. I finally saw her true face, and I didn't want her in my life anymore. But the scars will stay, reminders that sometimes the people you love can betray you like no one else. And the lesson I learned: never ignore the signs, trust your instincts, and never let someone treat you like a fool. In the end, it was a brutal lesson, but one I needed to learn the hard way. I realized that trust, once broken this badly, is almost impossible to repair. My marriage ended not because I didn't love her anymore, but because I finally saw her for who she really was: selfish, manipulative, and willing to lie her way through life just to get what she wanted. And honestly, I felt a strange sense of relief now that I was finally free from the illusion I'd held onto for so long. Looking back, I see how much I let her manipulate me, how her bitchy attitude and constant lies chipped away at my confidence. I see now that I should have paid closer attention, listened to those little gut feelings when they first started creeping in. But part of me also wonders if I was just too blinded by love or hope that she'd change. That's what hurts the most. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, that I question everything I thought I knew about her. I've learned to value myself more, too. Stop accepting bullshit just because I didn't want to admit I was hurt. I now understand how dangerous it is to ignore the signs, how important it is to trust your instincts, even when the truth hurts like hell. I've finally started rebuilding my life piece by piece, and I'm still figuring out what's next. But one thing, for sure, I'll never let someone treat me like a fool again. If there's one thing I can tell anyone out there going through something similar, it's this: trust your gut, look for the signs, and don't be afraid to walk away when someone shows you they're not worth your time. Because no matter how much you love someone, some betrayals cut so deep that they change you forever. And in the end, the only thing that really matters is whether you can find a way to pick yourself up and move on.